So hello everyone. Here I am again with an English live streaming. You know, it's not my native language, so I may commit some mistakes. Hello Noki, and today I want to speak to you about Mantaflow. I saw in the Blender today live streaming that someone asked about what was the state and when is it going to be implemented in Blender 2.8x. And is what Pablo said, that it's not going to be inside Blender 2.80. But the review today, Sebas, the developer of Mantaflow, told me that the review of the code is going to start after the beta is released. At least the review of the code. So this means that there is some possibilities, some odds that the Mantaflow it's implemented in Blender 2.81. But it's nothing taken for sure. So let's see. Meanwhile, you can download the latest Blender 2.8 implementation of Mantaflow in the okay, let me open this in the GitHub, in the Sebas GitHub. So you can go here in the Sebas GitHub to Blender Mantaflow, and now you can go to releases. And inside releases, you will have here, even when you see here Blender 2.79b, you can see Blender 2.8. And here you have the Linux OS X on or Windows 64 release of the latest implementation of Blender Mantaflow in Blender 2.8. Bear in mind that this implementation does not have the current version of Blender 2.8. It's not the today's build of Blender 2.8, just that. But it's in a pretty good shape. And we will see today. Really, we have a small set of news about Mantaflow. It's a pretty small set because right now Sebas is focused in the implementation and fixing all the patches, so it could be implemented, say, inside Blender 2.8. So here I have a scene, and I was okay. The shortcuts. I was testing these because I wanted to see the result with foam and everything, and it's a bit too much. I think I'm going to hide this, but right now the implementation of Mantaflow in Blender 2.8 it's pretty cool because you can preview the simulation in a very good way. So let me enable the viewport display here to textured. And you can play this, and it's pretty awesome to see this way. And I'm going to start with an empty scene because someone asked me to start from 0. So in the comments in another video, so I will start. Hi Sebus, hi Canseco GPC. And I will show you one of the best features we have in Mantaflow now that solves some problems when you have multiple domains inside one scene. This is the previous video you made. Thank you. Thank you, Canseco. Hi, Radion. So we will start with our standard scene. Nothing special, right? We will get our domain. This is okay. Let's go to wireframe, and we'll get an sphere. There's one big bug that it's fixed already. That is when we used just the domain to contain the fluid. The fluid was growing without any reason. The volume was growing without any reason. If you used a collider, if you use a pool to contain the fluid, there was no problem with it. The fluid was not growing at all. But if you just simulate the fluid inside the domain, the fluid was growing without any reason. The volume was being increased without any reason, and this was solved already. So this is great news. Now we have this sphere, we have this one, and one of the coolest thing is, of course, we can have our classic simulation. We are going to here. Let me increase this. And fluid, of course, we won't have anymore any kind of fluid or smoke. We just will have fluid. That's it. Mantaflow will cover both simulations, both liquid and fluid simulation. And this is important because many people ask me about what is the difference between Mantaflow and Blender Flip Fluid Simulator add-on, the Flip Fluid Simulation add-on. Well, there are two main differences. The first one is that, of course, the Flip Fluid Simulation add-on, it's a commercial add-on. It's a pretty cool add-on. It's a very good system for simulating liquids, but it's just that. It's just for simulating liquids. It's pretty similar to Mantaflow, actually, but it used the GPU behind the scenes to accelerate the simulation. It's not the only thing it does, because it does several things differently, and well, you can do many things, but they are in a pretty similar state right now. At least the last time I tried the Flip Fluid Simulator, that I have to try it again soon, but it was in a pretty similar state. We have motion blur for both, but just for the mesh. We have, theoretically, we should have motion blur for particles in Mantaflow right now. You didn't have motion blur for particles in Flip Fluid Simulator. And you have control objects and control systems. They work differently, but the main difference between the both of them is that Blender Flip Fluid or Flip Fluid Simulator add-on, it's just for liquids. It will not, at least for the time being, it will not simulate smoke. Okay, and Mantaflow is going to be integrated directly in Blender. Of course, it's free. It's going to be free, and it's going to stay free, and it's going to be directly integrated inside Blender, with one leverage, one advantage. One advantage that if we have Mantaflow and we have fracture modifier integrated inside Blender, both of them inside Blender, you will be able to mix them. This does not mean that it will be a multi-physics system where the rigid bodies are going to be affected by the forces of the fluid, at least not for the time being. But you will be able to work with both of them. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty great. So let's continue with this. We have our domain, we have our sphere. It's like I repeat these steps once and again, but someone asked me to start the scenes from zero. So flow, and here, well, in the domain we have to configure this as liquid, and the emitter is going to be flow. It's going to be liquid too in this case, and that's it. There is another catch with the current implementation of Mantaflow, and I'm not sure how this affects Flip Fluid Simulator. That is, what happens when you work with super powerful computer with tons of cores, with many cores. In this case, I'm working with this system that is this Threadripper. It's 32 physical cores, 64 threads, and you're going to see one little problem as soon as I start simulating this. I'll leave this out and I will show you later. So we have this here, and I'm going to create a cube. A cube. This. It's going to just be a block to collide with the fluids. And yes, you hear me, with fluids, because we are going to do a fast mix of liquid and smoke. So as always, fluid, effector, collision, that's it. We can rotate this a bit, and that's it. Scale, we apply scale, and now we can simulate this at 64. Well, I can show you this at 64 right now. So if I press bake data, check the CPUs. So the CPU usage is around 7%, 8%, 7%. If the scene is too simple, the usage is going to be lower. But the main problem here is that every thread of the CPU is being used, but just by a tiny percent. So this is going to slow down the simulation. We can go to the details, at least in Windows. I'm not sure about this in Linux or OS X, but at least in Windows this is a big problem, because this system, that it's theoretically a lot more powerful than my old system that had 16 threads. Yeah, 16 threads. It's slower than that old system, and this is because how Mantaflow is using is being multi-threaded. It's not especially efficient in multi-threading, so you have to limit how Mantaflow will use this CPU to increase its performance. So to do that, we can go to details and we can find our Blender instance. We can go to affinity. In this case, I have this in Spanish because my Windows is in Spanish, but this is the affinity of the CPU. And we can tell Blender to use just one of the four CPUs we have in this CPU, 4 nodes. So I'm going to use the node 2, and yes, just 8 threads. And now if we check performance, I can resume, for example. Well, in this case, maybe this is a too simple sim. Did I accept? I'm not sure. Establish affinity. Yeah, and why is not using it? Yeah, you can see here how these CPUs are being with a much better use, but in this case it's a simulation so simple that it's not a problem for the CPU. We will try the same thing in another a bit more complex scene. Most Blender dev are Linux users, so I guess it works better. It's not just that it works better in Linux because the devs are Linux users. It's because it's a bit complex. It's because the schedule system of the CPU in Windows, it's a bit broken, so it cannot work in a totally efficient way with this kind of CPU, at least for the time being. And on the other hand, Mantaflow, not Blender, but Mantaflow, is not perfectly multi-threaded for this kind of multi-threading. So it will not take leverage of this kind of CPU. Again, in a pretty complex scene, the percentage of use of the CPU is going to increase. It's going to be better. But it's not going to leverage all the power of this computer as, for example, Cycles. Cycles uses the full CPU to render, and it's pretty fast. But Mantaflow is not the case with Mantaflow. So we have this simulation. The hotkeys. Mantaflow uses OpenMP, and I'm not sure. I really am not sure, because it's not Mantaflow in Blender. It's the proper Mantaflow. It's the actual simulator that is not exactly part of Blender. You know, it's a separate system that lives inside Blender, but it's not exactly Blender. So great, I simulated with seeing the particles. Let's enable softly, please, Juan. Bake that again. And now, what do we have new here, apart that we can use Eevee to preview our simulations, which is pretty neat, and we'll see another. OpenMP, don't use old cores. I'm not sure if it uses OpenMP. I'm not sure at all. So what's cool about Mantaflow in Blender 2.8, apart from using Eevee, is that we have one new option that is collections. And what does this mean? This means that we can have multiple domains in the same scene with multiple emitters and will not affect each other. Okay, so in the past, when you have, for example, a liquid domain and a smoke domain, and you had a liquid emitter, and you simulate the smoke domain, you get the smoke from the liquid emitter. And this is not correct, because my emission is configured as liquid, not as smoke. So right now we can separate the simulations using collections. So in this case, for example, I have this. We can place the simulation. It's a pretty simple simulation. Okay. I'm not sure why it goes up to frame 50 and that's it. Well, it's okay. It's fast for us. Okay, let me check the cache system. Oh, no, please. I want this cache text tool, for example. I like to configure my own cache folder because in this case it was in the system drive and it's going to take a lot of space. And in the past there was a bug with the automatically configured cache folder, so I lost trust in automatic cache folders in general. It's my fault, it's a personal thing. So, okay, free data and big data. Yeah, cache is set to 50, yeah. Here. So let's allow this to bake. In the time being, there is not much more about anything new in Mantaflow. It was the same. The particles are now working, and you saw in the first scene. We can check it later. But the particles are now perfectly working. The mesh is perfectly working. You can use motion blur with cycles, not with Eevee. I think it's a matter of Eevee. It's a problem of Eevee because I think Eevee don't have deforming meshes motion blur yet. So I think it's a matter that Eevee implements deforming meshes motion blur. But you can use motion blur with cycles and it's working perfectly. I'm not sure about particles motion blur, but it should work in theory because they are just Blender particles in the end. So if Blender particles have motion blur, they should have motion blur. So great, we have our scene, we can simulate it, and now it's perfectly working. Great. And now we can bake our mesh. And we will use split vectors and a brush factor of 1. It's okay. And the mesh calculation is pretty fast. We can see how the mesh calculation is leveraging more the CPU, but not too much. That is why I limit the usage to 8 threads, not 16, but 8 threads, because it will be easier for the CPU to communicate and pass the data from one thread to another. So it's going to be simple. Okay. Here we go. And now there's a bug that I'm not sure if it's a Mantaflow bug or if it's a Blender 2.8 bug. I'm not sure because this is not the current Blender 2.8 branch. It's a bit older. That is that in wireframe mode or in solid mode, we cannot see the mesh, the simulated mesh. I disable this, and if I disable the particles, as you can see, I can see this wireframe. Let's enable the solid view and view for display, solid, and it disappears. It's like it has no shader at all. It has no material, and well, maybe this is the problem. I can create a material. No, it's not the problem. I can create a material and I cannot see the mesh. Of course, I can select the mesh and I can play. I can see the outline of the mesh, but I cannot see the mesh. And how can I be able to see the mesh? I have to go to look and depth mode, and there I can see the mesh. Okay, here we can see our mesh. And we can check if in look depth, yeah, in look depth, exactly. So camera, that's okay. Let's add a Shift S, cursor to center. Let's add a plane, scale, and now let's go to motion blur to cycles. Sorry. Cycles, set support is set. I think this version of Mantaflow is not compiled with CUDA because I'm not being able to select system. I'm not being able to select any compute device. So I will ask Sebas about this, and so he can build a CUDA enabled build. So here we have this. We can go to motion blur. Let me check performance, CPU. As you can see, I cannot do anything here. Threads. I'm going to limit this to 60 threads, just because I'm in live streaming, of course. Okay, and we can set up an environment texture, and I cannot use Blender Cloud. So Pablo, if you are seeing this, or if someone is seeing this from the Blender Cloud team, I think the add-on is not ready for Blender 2.8. It could be great that we could have the Blender Cloud add-on in Blender 2.8 already to get HDRIs, textures, and everything. So let's go here. I have some HDRI things. Yes, this one. And that's it. Cyclist, motion blur, and that's it. We can render this. 12. Oh no, 1080p. No, please. Not 1080p. 30% is okay. Great. Why is this not working? I'm going to reduce this to 16. Okay, I'm not sure why this is not working. Is the live streaming working? Yes. So this should work. This was working the other day. This is a bug, of course, and it should be a new bug, because the other day I was rendering this without any problem. We can check one thing. That is, I'm going to save this as test3, for example, test3, and I'm going to reopen the file. Trusted source, and yeah, load UE. Okay, now I think it's working. Oh, of course, it's slow because I have the performance limited here. So allow me to enable everything, and now we can render. This is fast. So here we can see, let's increase the power of this, and in color management, I don't know, wait, this color management now. Here, let's increase the, okay, a bit bigger. So here you can see we have motion blur enabled, and it's working great, right? Great. Now let's try the next big thing, that is, let's mix this liquid simulation with smoke simulation. For starters, we will do a small test. We will create another UV sphere. And here it's going to raise a smoke column. So Y. Now we go here, fluid, and flow, and smoke. That's it. Okay, great. But now we need a domain, because our current domain, it's a fluid, it's a liquid domain. So we need a new domain. Okay, we will duplicate this, and we will erase the modifier, and we will change its name, and smoke domain, and this is collider, and this is liquid domain. Okay, so let's go here, fluid, and domain, gas domain, and that's it. And now we can simulate, right? Well, let me set up the cache folder. That is going to be here, and test 2 smoke. And no, an absolute path, please. Okay, now we can simulate. We can bake data, and I'm going to wait for some frames. The smoke can interact with fluid liquid too. Well, yes and no. It's not going to affect, they are different simulations, so it's not going to exactly affect. Theoretically, we could be able to enable, well, not exactly, but yes, in the future, I spoke about this with Sebas. In the future, we could be able to enable another fluid modifier or another state, another type, so we could define the liquid as collider. One solution right now is to bake the current liquid into an Alembic cache, log the Alembic cache as an object, and define this Alembic cache as a collider. This way you could more or less make the liquid to affect the smoke. So it's not bad. So great. We have this here, and check this. Can you see this? We have a smoke in this emitter. Okay, and this is a liquid emitter, but we have information, we have smoke in this liquid emitter, and this is not cool because we don't want that. We want a liquid emitter, and we want a smoke emitter. So for this, we can use the new feature that we have in Mantaflow. That is, well, let me configure this a bit so we can have fire plus smoke, and it's 3, 2, 2, 3, for example. That's okay. Initial velocity. No, there's no need for initial velocity. Okay, so now we can separate the simulations by collection. So we can take, for example, the liquid domain, we can take the collider, well, that's it, right? So we can move to a new collection. Let's call this liquid. Okay. Hi, Kangaroo. And now we can go here and pick the smoke simulation, pick the new sphere. Wait a moment. Yes, liquid, collider, liquid domain. Ah, of course, I need my sphere to be in the liquid collection too. Okay, collider, liquid domain, and sphere, right? Now we go here, we have our sphere, we have our smoke domain, and we can move this to a new collection, smoke C. Okay, what happens if I want to have the collider in both simulations? Well, it's easy. It's like in layers in 2.79. We just have to move, and if I'm correct, we select this and we drag. It was something like dragging or something similar, I'm not sure. Or with both. No. Why it's not configuring? Well, we can add the object this way. We can go here and we can go to collections and add to collection and smoke scene. So this way we have the object once in the scene. Remember that an object can be in many collections at the same time. So we have in the liquid we have the collider, in the smoke scene we have the collider. So we have the colliders in both simulations. Okay, now we can go to our smoke simulation, free the data, and this smoke disappeared. Let me hide the particles, flip particles. And now we go to the smoke simulation and check bake data. So one thing is not enabled yet, but I think it's going to come back, is the adaptive domain. Sebas already implemented the adaptive domain some versions ago in 2.79, and then he had to disable it for the time being, but it's already developed, and I think it's going to come back at some point. But it will coexist and it will exist, and I think it could be possible that it will be enabled also for liquids. That could be a pretty neat feature. So we have this here, Okay, my smoke is not emitting anything. Why is this? Density, sample two step, flow behavior. Okay, inflow, sorry. And of course, I can go, I should go here in collections and tell that my flow is my sphere that I'm going to call smoke M. So my flow collection is the smoke sim, my vector collection for colliders. I could have just one collection for colliders and other things, but in this case I decided to duplicate the object inside the collection, not inside the scene. We still have just one box for the collider. So it's the smoke sim, and now I have separated things. I can go to my fluid, my liquid collection and configure this to liquid, and that's it. So now we can bake data, and that's it. Livardo, a pleasure. I'm not sure how to spell this. Pleasure. Thanks. Yeah, I will finish in 20 minutes more or less. Not much more. I want to see the Blender Hoy Spanish live streaming from Pablo. And okay, here we have it. I'm not sure why the smoke is not working right now, but as you can see, at least you can see the future. We have this emitter that is not emitting smoke at all, and we have this one that is more or less emitting smoke, but it's like broken. I have to speak with Sebas about this. Let's configure this, and if it's not working, I will change to another scene. So bake that again. So this feature is pretty cool because in the past, having multiple domains with different simulations in the same scene was a bit of a problem. Because of that, you have a liquid emitter and you have a smoke being emitted by the liquid emitter. It was a mess. You had to play animating the emission when you were going to simulate the liquid, and then enable the emission of the smoke where you were going to simulate the smoke. It's horrible. What you need is the Mantaflow temperature. I don't know at all. Sorry, but I will ask Sebas. But I don't know. Okay, smoke is broken. I think smoke right now should be broken because it's not emitting at all. But you saw this, okay? So let's go to another example of using Mantaflow in Blender 2.8. That is this one. Where can I get this version? You can get this version in the Sebas. Let me open it again. GitHub Sebas Blender Mantaflow. In the Sebas GitHub, here in releases, you have the latest build, that is the one I'm using right now for Linux OS X or Windows 64. So here, basically here. Here you have the link. 3.0 pretty high. I'm not sure. I just put 3.0 in the setting just because it was not working. So I used 3.0 to test it. Okay, so here's an example. We have a complex scene. Is the scene we used or we created in our animation special from August. It was in Spanish, not in English. But we created this animation and we tried to simulate it with Mantaflow, and Mantaflow was broken with this kind of a scene and characters. And with this scene, Sebas was able to debug this and improve this, and now it's working. So we can play this. And it's pretty cool to have this. It's a pretty low resolution simulation, but it's very cool. And you can, of course, move and see the scene and see the simulation. And you can have at least a fast preview of your animation with the liquid. You can use a very low resolution liquid to do the animation to be sure that it's going to react correctly with the liquid, with the set of the scene. And after that, you can increase the complexity of the simulation and then simulate the actual real simulation for the shot. So it's pretty cool because, as you can see, it's beautiful. We can try to launch our render. I'm not sure if it's going to work. It's in Eevee. We can press F12. Let's see. It's a bit ugly right now. But I think there is something with the wrong configuration, and my HDRI is pretty bad. Can you make that simulation to Alembic and bring it back in? Would be that faster on playback? I think yes, it should. Let me try. So we have this simulation, and we can export to Alembic. And okay, here, Alembic character. By the way, this character is from Luciano. So you can acquire this character in his Gumroad. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. So here, the simulation selected objects only, renderable objects, visual. Okay, that's okay. Export Alembic. That's how it works. And in the meantime, GitHub Lutz, I think it was your GitHub. No, not GitHub. Sorry, Gumroad. Here. You can get these riggings, these characters, for a pretty low price. This will help him to keep improving the characters and to keep creating more characters. And I think it's a pretty low price, and they are very good characters to practice animation. So I think they are pretty good. If you are an animator, you should have those characters. And come on, $3, £3, it's no money. Okay, it baked. Yeah, I think it's okay. Let's try first in another scene. So file, new, general, and file, import, Alembic. And here we have it. Set frame rates, it's okay. Yes, the playback is a lot faster, of course. Let's go to our scene. So I'm going to disable the simulation. Well, not the entire simulation. I have very low space here. So let's go into hide. Let's go to hide this and this. Let me check. No, the playback is not better. So I'm going to. Okay, I'm going to use the hard way. I'm going to delete the domain. And I'm going to delete this. CTS, cursor to center, file, import, Alembic. Don't set the frame range. And yes, we have near real time. I'm not sure where can I see the frame rate in Blender 2.8. Can I see the frame rate at all? Viewpoint, navigation. I don't know where to see the frame rate, but of course it's much faster. And we can put here the material. What was the material? Okay, it broke. I just broke Blender 2.8 with Mantaflow. Great, there's going to be an update to the characters. Thanks, Luciano. Under overlays, okay. As soon as it comes back. Let's open it again. As you can see, Blender 2.8, even in its Mantaflow state, it's pretty stable because I just had it, but it didn't crash, right? Please, Mantaflow crash. Suspended? Why is it suspended? Let's kill it. Now let's open the animation file. This is with the actual simulation. Material 2. Let's import cursor to center and import alembic. I don't need frame range. A new material and material 2. And it crashed. Okay, so that's it. Let's try once again just to check the performance. I'm not going to apply any material to the simulation. And that's it. Okay. So Shift S, cursor to center, file, import alembic, and under overlays, okay. Ten frames per second, it's low, but it's better than before. Of course, in this state, hey, I can see the mesh. Ah, of course, it's an alembic. It's not fast enough. Yes, the rig, I think the rig works in 2.8. What I'm not sure if it works is all the scripting behind the rig. So you can animate the character in Blender 2.79 and then open the scene in Blender 2.8 and the animation will work, just as you are seeing here. 10 frames per second. It's not too fast. Let's check. We have here some particles. $16, $18. Well, it's slow. It's not fast enough to animate in real time, but it's better than before, and you can see the effect in the character. So I think it's pretty neat, pretty cool. So really, these are the biggest new feature is the collection feature, and the news is that review of the Blender 2.8 integration of Mantaflow, of the patches for integrating Mantaflow in the release, in the master of the Blender 2.8, is going to start after the beta. So it's great because it's near it than ever. So it's awesome. And now I have 8 minutes. So for 8 minutes, I just want to show you. I'm sure you know what Cryptomatte is, but because there has been tons of tutorials and tons of live streamings after the Pablo live streaming, so okay, I'm going to show it to you, but really fast with a production scene. So let's go to, I really love the tabs. You know, I really love this. I really love this. But now I have it broken. So why? Okay, let's go to the actual release of Blender 2.8. I think it's from yesterday. This one is from yesterday. So here we have. And to compositing, use nodes, and I'm going to import an image, open image, as always, of course. Blender, no, give me a moment. Here. So I have here, for example, this file. It's an EXR, a multi-layer open EXR. So I can load this. And as you can see, we have this one. Let's configure a viewer. Okay, we have this one. Let's close this. We have this one, is just a production scene, and right now it's in composite, but we can go to render layer. If we enable render layer, we get all this. Okay, so now we can add the Cryptomatte, and there was one thing that was hard to post-process in a scene like this, that is, for example, all the grass. So with Cryptomatte, you have not just auto-masking, but also a good auto-masking with proper anti-aliasing, and it supports motion blur and it supports depth of field. So it's better than other masks because of that. So we can pick material or object, as you saw in the live streaming from Pablo. So we can just pick, for example, material, and connect the combined image. We can preview this, and we can go to pick. And in this case, we have all the grass as one color, more or less. We have a bit here. It should be floor. It is all at one color because we are using the material as a reference. But if we change this to object, we can pick the different patches of grass. So for example, instead of selecting all the grass, can I get objects make it in 2.8 to import in 2.7b? Yeah, you can, but you cannot open the blend and a scene in Blender 2.7. You will be forced to copy to the buffer and paste in your scene in 2.79. You can see this in my previous live streamings in Spanish, the working ones, and you can also append the file from the file, but you cannot open the dot blend. So right now I can pick, instead of picking all the grass, I just can pick one type of patch. As you can see, I get this matte. It's just this patch of grass because I have I think 4 or 5 different patches of grass. So I have just this patch of grass, and I have its matte. So I can go here, and I can go here, corpse for example, and I can preview this and use this as a matte for this, and I can increase the color of just this patch. And it's pretty cool because it's happening not just in this part of the scene, but also in every part of the scene where this patch of grass is present. So it's great. On the other hand, I can use the material, and I can go to pick. Let's pick this grass. Let's clear this out, and we will pick this grass. As you can see, we have the matte, and now we have the modification for this. There's one problem right now with anti-aliasing, and I think this should be solved. I'm not sure if it's a bug or why this happens. That sometimes you can get this outline affecting the color, but it's just when you go too extreme in the modifications. If you just modify a bit the color to do some color correction, some subtle color correction, you will not notice it. So it's pretty cool. It's very, very cool. So that's it. This is Cryptomatte, and it's pretty easy to enable it. You just go to the layers, okay, here, the passes, and of course this is working in Cycles, not in Eevee. And inside passes, you just have to enable object, material, or asset. Asset will create a mask for linked objects. So for example, if you have a character with a rig with different objects linked to it and such things, you will create a mask for this type of objects. Okay, so linked objects, material, or object. And I think there was going to be an option for collections. It could be awesome, but I'm not sure. So, and this was mostly working. I'm not sure how it is right now. So I think that's it for today. Pablo is about to start. So that's it for today. I hope you liked this live streaming. I hope you liked the news about Mantaflow and its nearly future implementation in Blender 2.8, probably 2.81. And that's it. If you liked it, please press the like button. This will help others to see the video when I publish it publicly. And it will help me to get more viewers and more subscribers. And subscribe, press the little bell, because I usually don't want about these streamings with too much time, so press the little bell so you know when am I going to stream. And that's it, guys. Thanks for seeing me, and see you in the next live streaming. Bye.